The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Pocatello, Idaho, on your new fire apparatus, job number 32471. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started on a brief orientation of your new apparatus. Starting on the face of the front bumper, you're going to find dual air horns on the right and left side. You'll also find in the center your PA speaker and also emergency electronic siren. Moving up onto the top of the extended bumper is where you'll find your mechanical siren. You'll also find an 1.5 inch swivel front discharge. Located in the center of your bumper extension is also where you'll find your tubbed storage location for that hose. On the bumper extension sides, you'll find emergency warning lights. As we move up onto the front section, you'll find your headlight cluster, low and high beam. You'll also find your turn indicator and also marker light in this same cluster. Moving up above that location, you'll find two emergency warning lights on the right side and on the left. And located on the right and left side, you'll find two grab handles for gaining access aloft to the windshield area. Your windshield has two windshield wipers. Located at the very top of the brow of the apparatus, there are 5 brow lights, which are your running lights. Located in the center, you'll find a forward-facing floodlight. Located all the way to the top of the apparatus, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Located just inside that light bar in the very center is where you'll find your traffic advisor. Your mirrors have two functions. First, the lower section, flat, and the upper portion convexed. You do have 2 grab handles at all points of entry. On the side, you'll find your auto eject shore power plug. You'll also locate at the very top rear section of your apparatus on the passenger and driver's side a water tank level indicator. Also, you'll find your wheel bearing hubs. It is a sight gauge inside. As we move to the passenger side, you'll find the same 2 grab handles, one at each points of entry, but you'll also find this ventilation area here for air inlet. Couple of close-ups here of your front bumper. This is the 1.5 inch swivel discharge, located in the center, once again, that tubbed storage location with a diamond plate cover. Your front discharge is foam capable. As we look inside, you'll find the tubbed storage location with dry deck material. As we also look to the center portion, you'll find your low and high beams. High beams on the inside, low beam is on the outside. Your shoreline inlet is a 20 amp auto eject plug. Let's move now to the side pump panel. This is the driver's side. First, a couple of warning labels. Pressurized hazard here for caps associated that may be under pressure while removing that cap. Fall protection here regarding not to ride on the side of the apparatus. And also warning here that only trained personnel should operate this equipment. There's also warning here for foam regarding not mixing the foam types or brand manufacturers. Let's start in the upper left-hand corner, first with your number 1 2.5 inch discharge, red in color. Your number 3 2.5 inch discharge, blue in color. Located where this duct tape is to prevent items from going inside, this is your large diameter pump intake. Down at the very bottom, you'll find those 2 discharge drains. As we move to the center, you'll find your foam system for draft foam and the tank, and then you'll find the inlet down at the lower portion. Just beneath that, you'll find all of your pump drain and also your auxiliary inlet drain. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll find your driver's side auxiliary inlet. This is a 2.5 inch female inlet. As we move to the speed loads on the side of the vehicle, you'll find the number 1 and number 2 cross lay. These are 1.5 inches. And you'll also find a mechanism which allows you to release the speed lay holder and allows the tray to be moved outward. You'll also find a warning label here regarding entanglement. Because of those hoses coming off at an elevated level, there is the possibility of entanglement. Above that location, you'll find backboard storage locations for 2 backboards. You'll also find a dead lay.
And then to the right, you'll find a 2.5-inch crosslay, which is water foam capable. You'll also find just underneath that label the same release mechanism for that speed lay. Let's move now to the pump panel. This is inside the compartment. We'll start at the very top. When you've exited the cab and your pump is properly engaged, you will find your engaged light indicator lit. This is a general view. We'll take a look at some of these items. This is going to be your pump panel heater. There's also going to be a foam level indicator. We'll talk a little bit about this gray section in a moment as we have a little bit more closer images of this, but this is your master intake and discharge. We'll talk about those in a moment. Also, you have a PCM fault indicator, which is amber in color. We'll talk about that also. Down at the very next level down, you'll find your discharges labeled, color-coded, and also foam capable. You'll find your primer for the fire pump with some instructions just beneath that. And then you'll move to the right, you'll find your large diameter discharge. To the far right, you're going to find your control module. This is your pressure throttle governor. And then we'll move down from that, first indicating for your placard from Pierce. This is your test pressures for 150, 200, and 250 psi. You'll also find your tank fill, tank recirculating, tank to pump, and also deluge discharge. You do have 2 electronic valves. We'll talk about those also as we have a little bit more close-up of those items. And then your vehicle is equipped with a foam system. The red module in the upper right-hand corner, that is the control module for that foam system. And then just beneath that, you'll find the schematic and also the foam module instructions. Down at the very bottom, you'll find a warning label here regarding, once again, only trained personnel should operate this vehicle. And then across the very bottom, you'll find all your associated discharge drains, color-coded and labeled. And then we'll find an access panel, which will go over what's behind that in the next set of images. Let's move back up to the very top first. This is going to be your panel gauge heater. It is automatic. It does have a cold sensor. To the right in the teal color, you'll find your foam A tank. This is your foam level indicator. To the right in the gray area, you're going to find your master intake. And then just beneath that, you're going to find your test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. To the right, you'll find your master discharge. And then all the way to the very far right, you'll find that PCM fault, which is a amber indicator if lit. And beneath that, you'll find an audible alarm speaker. It is adjustable by the outer edges of that bezel. Let's move down to the next section. You'll find your discharges on the left. You'll also find priming instructions here. To enhance your priming, operate at least at 1,000 RPMs. We'll also talk a little bit about the set of switches on the left-hand side, which is your driver's side scene lights, passenger side scene lights, and your pump compartment heater. Let's move back over to the pump panel itself, to the next section down, where you'll find that minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 psi. You have your GPMs on the left and RPMs on the right. Down in the next section, you'll find your recirculating, tank fill, tank to pump, and deluge discharge. Your vehicle does have 2 electronic discharges. We'll talk about those also. This is that minimum operation maintenance schedule, just a close-up of that. Further instructions are available in your owner's manual. This is once again 150, 200, and 250 psi. It does have your governed speed at 2280. Let's move to the right-hand side first. This is your throttle pressure governor from Pierce. At the very top, you'll find a check engine light. If indicated, it will be lit. And you also have a stop engine. If indicated, it would be lit. That's red in color. The check engine would be amber. The next set of indicators are for engine level. Next section down, you'll find your water tank level indicator. There are also 2 additional water tank indicators on the side of the pumper. You have a silence alarm button. In orange, a menu button to scroll through your menu, which is digitally displayed in the next section down in the black area. You have either the options of pressure control, and on the other side you'll find RPM control. Those are the 2 options you have available for your pressure throttle governor. On the lower section, you'll find a control module. You'll also find a green indicator that your throttle is ready to be engaged, and then you have the capability of presets in green. You do have a throttle control and an idle button in the very center. You do have to push that in to make the idle control go to the idle position. Let's move back up to the Husky foam system. This is the indicator for your module for your foam system. In the upper left is green, the system on and off. You do have in gray the increase or decrease. You have also an orange prime button in your foam percentages in a digital readout. Down in the next section, we'll talk a little bit about some of these drains, but I'd like to point out to the panel here on the left-hand side of the door, you'll find this foam instructions. This is for your foam fill operations, and it pertains to this yellow handle in the very back. This is also the location of your manual pump shift override. It is a protected switch, and there is an amber indicator if on. As we move to the compartment, you'll find a short power outlet. This is when plugged into shore power, this outlet will be activated. It is plugged into your air compressor for your brakes. Also to the right-hand side, you'll find your continuous power supply. There are some ratings in addition to that on the yellow placard at the very top. As we move just in front of the rear wheel, you'll find bottle storage locations with a retaining strap. To the rear of that, you'll find your diesel, which is a silver cap, and then you'll also find the blue, which is your DEF 4.5 US gallons. Let's move to the next compartment. You do have LED lighting inside the compartment and the ability for adjustable shelving. Let's move to the very rear compartment. There is an adjustable pull-out shelf at the very bottom and the mechanism on the right for the release. In this compartment, you also have a shoreline generated outlet. On the side of the vehicle, on both passenger and driver side, you do have side floodlights, and you also have emergency lights. Let's move around to the very back of the apparatus, and just underneath on the sides of the apparatus in the rear is where you're going to find your wheel chocks for the passenger and driver side. You do have brake, turn, and reverse lights. There are also emergency lights located in the rear of your apparatus, along with work lights and also your license plate light. There is a switch here for your work lights. It's on the left-hand side or the driver's side. You do have access for ground ladders, and then above that you'll find your folding ladders and additional long tool storage in the two upper compartments. Let's take a look at a couple more items. Located here, you'll also find an entanglement warning here because of those hoses coming off from an elevated position. You'll also find a warning label not to ride on the back of your apparatus. You'll also find pressurized caps warning label and associated hazards with that. And just above that is your 2.5-inch rear discharge. As we move to the right side of the vehicle in the rear, you'll find your ladder to gain access to loft. There are some warning labels here, but there are two mechanisms. One to move the ladder outward away from the apparatus, and the next one down is to lower the ladder downward to the ground to gain access. That cupped switch light is the work light for the rear lights on your apparatus. Let's take a look inside the compartment here. This is your ground ladder. So you have a 24-foot extension ladder, a 14-foot roof ladder. Just above this location of your ladders is where you'll find an additional ladder storage location. This is your folding ladder, which is a 10-foot folding, and then you have two tool locations for long handles. On the other side, additional storage location. Let's move down to the center compartment, adjustable shelf in the center, and also a pull-out shelf at the very bottom. The mechanism for control is on the right. As we go inside the top section of your apparatus where your hose storage is on each right and left side, you have additional storage location lockers. There is LED lighting inside these. We'll now go ahead and move to the dunnage area, which is going to be just in front of the hose bed. There are 3 work lights in this area. You'll also find your water fill location and also your foam A fill location. In the upper left-hand corner is where you're going to find your Husky foam system pump. This is a hydraulic pump. We'll talk a little bit more about the controls for that. And on the far right-hand side, you'll find your extension here for your master stream device. Let's take a look here at the dunnage area again. Water tank fill location and foam tank fill location for foam A. As we look to the hydraulic system, you will find a fill location down in the lower left-hand corner of your manufactured pump. Let's look to the cab now. On the top of the cab, there are some warning labels here. This is a slippery surface. Be cautious. That's what these warning labels are for. And as we look to the left, you'll find handles for accessing inside those rear compartments. As we move to the right side rear compartment, RS3, you'll find a storage location and also a pull-out shelf. To the rear wheels, you'll find 3 bottle storage locations. In front of the rear wheels, you'll find an additional 3 bottle storage locations with retaining straps. As we move to RS1, which is the center compartment over the rear wheel, you'll find a D handle release the toolbar, and then you'll also find a release mechanism when it's stowed in the open position to release it to close it back to normal. On the right hand side, you'll find the release mechanism for this pull-out shelf, and also in this area is where you're going to find the cab lift control module. Here's a close-up of that. This is the cab lift. There is a lower and raise and then an activate switch. There's also some danger information here and also cab lift operating instructions for raising the cab and also lowering the cab. Let's move to the pump section area. First, we'll start with some warning labels here. This is a warning label regarding not to ride on the side of the apparatus. You do have a warning label here regarding pressurized caps and the associated hazards while removing those caps under pressure. The duct tape area here is your large diameter pump intake. As we move further down, you'll find your passenger side auxiliary inlet. This is a 2.5-inch inlet. To the right, you'll find your number 2 passenger side discharge, which is a 2.5-inch, and then you'll find your large diameter discharge, which is green. Because this vehicle has 2 electronic valves, there are overrides for those electronic valves which require a tool. At the very bottom, you'll find all the associated drains for the valves on this side. Let's look inside the cab. We're in the rear section of the cab where you'll find the center access. This is the location for accessing your daily checks for oil and transmission. And you'll also find a tall cabinet on the passenger side. Inside that cabinet, you'll find LED lighting and also 2 adjustable shelves. The center section behind the apparatus engine is where you'll find your oil check, transmission, and fill location. You do have LED box lights on each the right and left side of your apparatus in the rear. Let's take a general look from the rear to the front of the apparatus from the center position. And then we'll go now to the driver's side. We'll identify some of the items within this area. First, at all points of entry, you'll find warning labels here. And then you'll also find the fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. Underneath the operator, or I should say the driver's seat, you'll find a storage section, and you'll also find directly in front a glove box for additional storage locations and a grab handle. Located on the dash, you may find these warning labels, and you should not remove them. These are indicating for termination of wire locations. You'll also find your vehicle data recorder. As we look to the center section, you'll also find once again those warning labels. We'll identify some of the items within this area. First, let's start at the very top. This is your climate control. You have heat and defrost and also air conditioning. Located just beneath that, you have a set of switches for your DPF regen and also your DPF regen inhibit. Beneath that, you'll find an additional set of switches for your load manager indicator, a future switch location as you have just above future switch locations, 3 red indicators, which is your siren brake, mechanical siren, and also your air horn. Let's look overhead. You'll find future locations for mounting of additional components, but I would like to point out in the very center, this is your Pierce seatbelt information. If indicating red, it's indicating someone is in the seat but they are not belted. If they're in the seat and belted, it will indicate green by an individual sitting in the seat. There will be 3 locations for seat identification here. As we move to the driver's side, you'll find additional warning labels here regarding the use of seat belts and also warning labels on the drawer. You'll also find this Pierce manufactured placard for your fire department of November 2018 with the job number, gross vehicle weight ratings, tire pressures, and also your VIN number. The lower section is going to have your fluid capacities for the component, fluid capacity, and fluid type. As we move about the left knee of the operator, here's your master battery switch in red. Just above that, you'll find this green cap, which is where the location for plugging in diagnostic equipment. To the right, you'll find your system parking brake, pull to apply, and push to release. Just above that, you'll find your ignition, start, tire change, which is a protected switch, and also your mirror heat. Moving just to the right-hand side of the column, In the same location, you'll find your engine diagnostics and ABS diagnostic switches. As we look to the dash, you'll find your oil pressure, water temperature, transmission and volts, and also your tachometer. Moving to the right-hand side of the column is where you'll find your speedometer, fuel, DEF level, front air, and rear air. Located in the center, you'll find diagnostic information that will illuminate if necessary. Let's move to the right-hand side and talk a little bit about some of the cluster of switches here. Let's first start in the upper left-hand corner, starting with your headlights, a dimmer switch, wiper, washer wiper control, front scene, and rear work light. Just beneath that next set of switches, you'll find your engine brake on and off, settings for low, medium, and high idle, okay to engage the high idle, passenger and driver side scene lights. In the upper right, you'll find your siren control and PA system microphone. Down in the lower section, you'll find an indicator for stationary okay to pump while rolling, a water pump, foam system, 2 future switch locations, and then also your backup override, which will cancel the backup alarm. To the right, you'll find your Allison transmission pad. As we look further to the right on the actual slant, you'll find a flat and convex mirror control. Over the operator's head on the left-hand side is where you'll find this placard, which is your height 10 feet 3 inches, your length 31 feet 9 inches, gross vehicle weight rating at 49,800 pounds. This also has your job number 32471-03. If you make any adjustments to your vehicle, please update this placard. To the right of that placard is where you're going to find a set of switches for your emergency master, roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, and upper rear warning. When the switch is engaged, you will find the green indicator illuminating. To the right of this is where you're going to find your high beam flash, the Opticom, which is your traffic advisor located in the center of your light bar, your air horn, selector or electronic horn, siren horn, electronic siren or mechanical siren, and then in red, a siren brake. You'll also find overhead your pump pressure for pump and roll. To the right, you'll find 2 tank indicators, one water tank in blue, and in green, your foam A tank. Let's take a look from the front looking to the very rear for the center-mounted SCBA firefighter seat. You'll also find an additional seat on the driver's side. Congratulations, Pocatello, Idaho Fire Department, on your new fire apparatus, job number 32471. If you have any questions as to the content of this video or any future questions, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.